everybody. Welcome to the Sales High Five Show. My name is Nick Kane. I'm managing partner at Janik Performance Group. Janik is a leading sales performance company offering sales training, sales coaching, and sales consulting services. We're consistently conducting research in the market around top sales performance, and we win industry awards and receive recognition for the research and work that we do in the marketplace. I'll be your host for today's show, and I'm extremely excited to discuss what's going to help sales leaders fire on all cylinders in 2021. There's no doubt that 2020 was a challenging year to say the least, and no different in sales. But there's certain things that we've learned that can be advantageous for a sales leader to drive improved and better performance even through these most challenging times. So for today's show, I'm going to share 5 tips that we've identified are in line with top performing sales leaders and how they lead their sales teams today. The first thing I want to discuss is one of the most important traits, which is positivity. There's no question that your team is going to be experiencing some challenges and difficult times. So when you think about one of the most important traits, it's around being positive and finding the positive and silver linings in some of the most difficult sales challenges. Because these things are going to come up. As you're working with your team, you're going to be experiencing feedback around challenging situations. So when I talk about positivity, I'm not just talking about having a positive demeanor. I'm also talking about finding ways to help your sales professionals think differently when experiencing difficulty. Just think about what we're experiencing today. Yeah, COVID caused some serious challenges when it came to the sales process. At one time, we were used to selling in person, shoulder to shoulder with clients. That world has completely changed and shifted, and probably more so in sales than anywhere else. But if you think about the outcome of this, the improved skills, the behaviors, the attitude that sales professionals are going to have coming out of this interesting time, they're going to be even better skilled, even better developed to be able to manage and sell to their clients consistently. Right? So think about how you can maintain positivity when you're being given challenging scenarios, maintain a positive attitude, and be the positive pillar that your sales team needs during difficult times. The next tip that I'll share is the importance of being an effective communicator. This is extremely important in these challenging times. It's important to make sure that you maintain an environment that enables and encourages an open dialogue and an open door for communication. Again, your sales professionals are going to be experiencing challenges with their deals, with coworkers, in their personal lives. So it's really important that you maintain an open door and be available when your sales professionals need you the most. Being an effective communicator also means that you are honest and transparent with your team. I remember being in sales years ago when I first started in my career. And at the time, the organization that I worked for really kept us in the dark, right? We didn't know much. There was consistent sort of closed door meetings. We were constantly concerned and worried about the state of the organization. There was very limited communication. And that created a difficult environment for the sales professionals, which led to high turnover and limited productivity, right? So I think it's really important to be an effective communicator, be open, be transparent, be direct, and take time to fill your sales professionals in on what is going on and what is the organization doing in order to stay ahead and be successful during these difficult times. And the last point I'll mention around communication is look for opportunities to communicate, right? Don't just wait for your sales team to come to you with challenging situations. Look for them as well, right? Schedule consistent meetings, check in on your sales professionals from time to time. Read between the lines on messaging. Just try to be aware and look out for opportunities where you could impact your sales professionals in a positive way and use your strong communication skills to keep them focused, keep them guided, and make sure that they're always staying positive through these challenging times. The next tip I want to talk about is development. So when you think about development, that typically boils down to 2 key categories, right? One is sales training and the other is coaching. And when I think about sales training, take some time to reflect on all the changes that your sales team is likely experiencing during these times. Are they used to selling remotely, or were they used to selling in person? Are their deals taking longer to close? Are they having more difficulty reaching customers or prospecting for new business? Are they experiencing challenges managing key accounts? So I think it's really important to take a step back and, as a leader, think about what skills your team needs during these times to be as successful as possible. Take some time to assess the areas of the sales process. What skills do they need to develop? And then once you figure that out, then I think it's important to think about where that training comes from. Does the organization have content? Does the organization have trainers to be able to close those gaps and offer the skill development training that your sales team needs? If you don't, then an option might be to look at an external vendor, a partner that can bring in that type of content that you need to close those gaps and deliver the training that your team needs to be successful at this time. Most external sales training providers have extensive content and will be able to offer training and development around the subjects that you likely identify are opportunities for development. They'll also be able to customize that curriculum specifically for your organization, should you choose. And that allows you to deliver highly relevant training and close the skill development gaps that you've identified as a leader. And don't forget, once you deliver that formal sales training to the team, think about how you're going to sustain and you're going to reinforce those skills over time. Delivering training as a one-off event and never discussing it again, we've all been through that, and that typically drives very limited results. So think about how you follow up training with coaching, with technology, with other tools to ensure that those skills stick, they become permanent behaviors, and you're driving improved performance at the organization. In addition to sales training, sales coaching can be extremely impactful and something that you should be consistently engaging in as a high-performing leader in today's marketplace. And coaching can take shape in a few different ways. Leading teams remotely in today's environment, you might need to identify coaching opportunities differently than you have in the past. So think about ways you can do that. One might be to look at your KPIs, look at your data, look at your leading and lagging indicators, and start to identify gaps, start to identify opportunities in performance, and look at what the data is telling you in an effort to understand where those opportunities lie for coaching. Another thing you can do to identify coaching opportunities is to observe or join live sales calls. Spending some time observing those calls or joining those calls live and providing support can provide great insight into coaching opportunities. You may also think about listening in or going back and reviewing recorded sales calls. Pretty much all the collaboration tools like Zoom, WebEx, Teams, they all offer recording functionality, and that provides a great tool to go back and listen in on how your sales team is tackling difficult sales challenges on calls. What are they experiencing? What are some of the trends? And that's going to help you identify coaching opportunities at a team level and an individual level, right? So take some time, pull those recordings, listen to them on your own, bring your sales team members in, do them in groups, do them individually. That's going to provide a great tool for developing and identifying coaching opportunities. And remember, when you are delivering coaching, it is really important to not try to cram too many points, too many topics, and too much information into those coaching conversations, especially now when you're coaching remotely. There are some added challenges from a communication standpoint. So just think about and structure that coaching conversation in a way that is concise, to the point, and provides actionable ways for your team members to start growing those skills and changing behaviors immediately. When you're thinking about coaching, I think it's also important to make sure that you're setting up a regular cadence for your coaching efforts. Ideally, if you can get to each rep individually once per week, that's going to go a long way in terms of development, performance, and increased and improved morale. We recognize that may not be possible based on bandwidth, that may be challenging, but do your best to set up a regular coaching cadence, track performance, measure performance, revisit that performance consistently. Keeping a consistent track of coaching and a calendar around coaching is going to help ensure that your team members come prepared for that coaching and is going to keep you on track in terms of optimal performance over time. And lastly, when you think about coaching, make sure you keep those coaching conversations a two-way conversation. You don't want to be the one driving all the information. You want to make sure that it feels very collaborative, that you're engaging your sales rep, and they are able to provide feedback and an understanding and draw their own conclusions in ways that they can continue to develop their skills and grow performance in these difficult times, right? So just make sure, keep that coaching conversation fluid, keep it two-way, and keep it very collaborative. So to summarize, just make sure that your sales team has the development that they need to be successful in these difficult times. Don't just rely on them to identify those opportunities. As a leader, help them identify ways to continue to improve performance and grow as a sales professional over time. The next tip I'll mention is it's really important to measure performance through the data and key performance indicators that you measure as an organization. When I think of KPIs, I think of both leading and lagging indicators that help me determine the success of my sales professionals. Leading indicators measure things like activity, right? They're going to give you some guidance around the level of activity that your sales team is engaging in. Lagging indicators are outcomes, right? They're going to tell you what the results are of those activities and how the sales professional is meeting and achieving their goals. Why is it important to look at both of those things? Well, I think it's important because in tough times, emotions can get the best of us, right? And we don't want to allow gut instinct to make decisions. Sometimes reality can be very different than what we think it is based on perception. So the data is going to help remove subjectivity, is going to give us a clear picture of what is really going on from a sales professional's perspective and how they're performing and what they're doing in terms of sales performance. So when you think about KPIs, take some time to measure them, what they currently are, against established benchmarks that you may have set in the past, year-over-year data, quarter-over-quarter data, whatever you're using to measure that, just make sure you're consistently comparing that against benchmarks that you've established. And again, it's really important to make sure that you're using that data wisely. You just don't want to fall into that trap of making irrational decisions. And again, that can be really easy to do when you're working remotely and you don't have the luxury or the opportunity to be able to observe your sales team live in person and be able to walk the halls, if you will, or just walk around the office and have conversations. So don't allow yourself to fall into that trap. Use data to help support what's going on and drive towards the bigger picture around supporting your sales team. Yeah, so when you think about some of the leading indicators that you should be looking at, some that come to mind for me are, how many new leads did that seller add to the pipeline? How many calls did they make? How many emails did they send out? How many new connections did they develop on LinkedIn or some of the other social media platforms? How many new contacts have they identified and connected with within existing accounts, right, in terms of expansion? What is their lead conversion rate for new leads that are assigned, right? I'm sure you have a series of KPIs that you're looking at, but make sure that you're separating leading and lagging indicators, and understanding the importance of each is going to be critical. Some common lagging indicators include things like sales revenue, number of deals closed, average deal size, wallet share, cross-selling rates. Think about some of those outcomes that you might be focused on as an organization, and make sure that first they're aligned with your objectives, but then secondly, you're measuring those consistently against benchmarks and using that information to, again, paint the picture, understand the development opportunities, and make sure that you're using that to coach and lead your sales team. The final tip I'll leave you with on today's show is around flexibility. Right? As a leader, it is critically important that you remain flexible during these difficult times. When I think about flexibility, I think about flexibility with our customers and with our team members. Sales process, playbooks, those things that high-performing sales organizations typically have are great tools to provide a framework and guidance for leading sales calls. But in today's difficult times, it is really important to offer some level of flexibility within those processes to meet a customer where they need to be. So think about what you're hearing from customers, what are sales professionals telling you, and I would encourage your sales team to be empathetic, to be strong listeners, and to be creative and think outside of the box to be able to meet a customer's needs during these difficult times and offer flexibility around what you can offer. As a sales leader, you should also be providing guidance on what that level of flexibility might look like in the sales process, right? Provide that education, provide that guidance. What flexibility are you allowing your sales professionals to have with and without approvals? But certainly some level of flexibility with customers in today's times is going to be needed to make sure that you are closing deals at the rate that you need. In addition to being flexible with your customers, be sure to be flexible with your team. Think about what they might experience during these difficult times, right? Show empathy towards their concern and offer flexibility they might need. They may be experiencing difficult times at home, in their personal lives, at work, with deals they're expecting to close, etc. Right? So be flexible, but also be empathetic towards their concerns. If you can offer some flexibility around a time off request, or perhaps they have a child that's sick at home, right? Just be sure to be human and offer flexibility and empathy towards those concerns so that you can show them that you're there to lead them, but also there to care, and you're there to support them during these difficult times. Just remember, there is no one size fits all solution here. We're all figuring this out together, but just be sure to be supportive, be flexible, and provide the leadership that your team needs at this time. Let's do a recap of the 5 critical tips that we talked about today for leading sales teams in difficult times. The first thing we discussed was positivity. It's important as a leader to lead by example and look for positive opportunities in the most difficult challenges. The next tip that we talked about is communication. Remember, maintain an open door policy, seek to identify opportunities for coaching before they become challenges, and always be supportive towards your team's needs when it comes to the challenges they might be experiencing. The next point that we discussed was development, and we broke that down into 2 categories: sales training and sales coaching. Training is going to focus on the development needs that your team might have. And we discussed some specific ways to do that. Identify opportunities for development in the sales process, use data to help support that, and identify where that content could come from and how you can sustain and reinforce those skills over time. The next point that we discussed was using data and KPIs to paint a bigger picture and a better picture of the current state of your sales team. Remember, don't use just gut instinct to make decisions around coaching, development, and managing your sales team, right? Use that data to support that decision-making and remove subjectivity when making decisions. And then the last point that we talked about was flexibility, right? Being flexible to our customers, being flexible to our team members, showing empathy towards their concerns, towards their challenges, and support. The old saying, tough times never last, but tough people do, is a great mantra for the time that we're in today. Just remember to maintain a positive outlook, keep your sales team focused and guided on the areas in which they can drive improved performance. Use any potential downtime as an opportunity for continued development, for coaching, and an opportunity to make your sales team even better than they are today. So before we wrap up today, I wanted to mention that we publish a ton of content and thought leadership on our website at janik.com. And you can also find more about the services that we offer there as well. That's it from us today on the show. We really appreciate you joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Sales High Five Show. Thanks.